Hello friends, welcome back. So in this session we will learn the scope of beans. We will learn about the scope of beans. In the last session we have seen wiring. How many types of wiring are there? Wiring can be done by name, by type, by constructor or no. So this one we have seen in the last session, and we missed one point here. So what was that one? So if you open that configuration file, your XML configuration, only in XML configuration wiring, so you might have seen this one. We have added one extra bean here. We have added an extra bean, but that bean is not required because we were missing this namespace before. So this namespace we have taken the latest one for our Spring. Whatever the Spring we are using, for that one we are including this namespace for this XML. So in that case we no need to see. Current our version is 5.3.25. So here our version is 5.3.25. So if you see the documentation of Spring official website, you go to here doc.spring.ioc, and here you can see this is the document of 5.3.25 only. So here they have suggested, so this is our annotation based container configuration. So if it is annotation based configuration, so you have to enable this annotation config to enable @AutoWire. So in that case we need to add this namespace here. This namespace for context we have to include. Notice the inclusion of context namespace. You can register the post processor as individual bean. Here they have clearly mentioned it. As always, you can register the post processor as individual bean definition, but they can also be implicitly registered by including the following XML tag based Spring configuration. Notice the inclusion of context namespace. So here this namespace we can directly add instead of adding this post processor individually. But before what we was doing, we were adding this annotation bean post processor, this one, that one only they are suggesting here. You can add this one. Always you can register the post processor as individual bean, but you no need to do that one. You can implicitly register by including this tag. So sorry, so this tag, this is the namespace, and after adding these namespace you can just use this context annotation config tag. That will work fine. You no need to register a new post processor individual bean actually. So this one actually we missed in the last session. Remaining that is fine. Okay, so now next one is, so in our today's session we will see the scope of bean. Now what is the scope of bean? What you mean by scope? Scope is showing the visibility or the accessibility. Generally we know the scope means the accessibility, where the any object or anything can be accessed. So that is also the definition of scope. But in Spring they are defining some more type of scope. So the scope of a bean defines the number or life of object. So this is the actual definition in Spring. In Spring, scope definition is the scope of bean identifies the number or life of the object, where the object can be used and how many object can be used. So that is the meaning of a scope of a bean. Beans can be defined to deploy in one of the number of scopes. The Spring framework supports 6 scopes, 4 of which are available only if you use web aware application context. You can also create a custom scope that we will see later. Not required. So total 6 type of scopes are there in Spring framework, but here we will see only 2 scopes, singleton and prototype, and total are 6 because these 4 are related to web application. When we will develop a web application, then we will see that this scope where that actually that scope can be used, because that is the requirement for this one. Your application should be running on any web container. If your application is running a standalone, then you cannot use this request session application or WebSocket. So that's why they have used, if you are using an web aware, that is nothing but an web applications only, that application will be running in web container. Okay, so that we will see later. But here we can use these 2 type of scope only. One is singleton, another one is a prototype. So singleton is the default scope in Spring application. That is a default scope. So what is singleton? Default, this is a default one, and this scope a single bean definition to a single object instance for each Spring IUC container. So that means only the single object of the class will be created. Only the single bean of the class will be created. Single bean of the or single instance of the class will be created. But if you specify scope as prototype, then new instance every time will be created whenever we will call, whenever we will ask from the Spring container that I need an object of this class. So what your Spring will do at that time, your Spring will create that object and will give you the object. But if it is a singleton, then your Spring will have created the one single instance, and that instance your Spring only will be returning to you. So let's see the example of singleton and prototype. So before to that one, we have to configure that singleton or prototype. For singleton, we no need to configure. By default it is singleton, but you want to specify explicitly, you can specify, but not required because by default the scope is singleton. So if you are using XML configuration, then you have to specify using inside bean tag only. You can use scope attribute, and inside scope attribute you can specify your scope, that either can be singleton or can be prototype, can be request, session, application, WebSocket. And in annotations, you have to mark this annotation on top of on top of the method name, where you have marked @bean annotation, and inside that one you can specify the scope. So here let's see the example of XML configuration first. So let's see, we have created, see this address class we have already created. We have already created this this address bean. So we are not creating any new bean. This was already created before. So that this bean only we will use, and we will open the configuration of Spring Bean scope demo config.xml. This is our configuration file. This is our XML configuration file. And if you see this one, if you see this file, we have configured here, leave this one, this we'll talk about later, this one. Okay, so here we have configured only one bean, that is address bean, and here we have specified the scope. Scope is what? Prototype. So first we will go with the singleton scope. So I am specifying here singleton scope. So what does it mean? It will be, your Spring will be creating only one bean. your spring will create only one object of this bean. Your spring will create only one object of this class and will keep inside container. Whenever we will call, whenever we will ask to spring container, please give me this object, please give me the object of address type, in that case your spring will return that same object only. So how will you verify that one? So here, go inside this main method, bean scope demo starter, and here what we are doing, this one just comment this one, not required now. So here you can see here using this class path XML application context, we are passing this our XML configuration file, spring bean scope demo config.xml. This is our XML file that we are passing. Here we are calling get bean on application context. Here what we are doing at line number 91, we are asking to spring container that please give me an object of address type. Please give me an object of address type. Then what your spring will do, your spring will give you that object, and what we are doing, we are printing the hash code of that object. Again we are asking to spring container, please give me an object of address type. Your spring will give you the same object again, it will not create a new object. Here also we are asking, line number 41 and 44 we are asking. First, at line number 41 we are asking to spring container that please give me an object of address type. So your spring will give you an object of address type, and we are printing the hash code of that one. Again we are asking at line number 44, we are asking to spring container, please give me the address, or please give me the object of address type. And here your spring will not create a new object. Whatever your spring is returning here, the same object, same reference only your spring container will return, and we are printing again that hash code. So it means that a hash code should be same, because if spring is returning the same object, then hash code should be same. And here we are checking the address of those also, address one bean, address bean 1, address bean 2, both. If it is both pointing to the same reference variable, it means this should be true. So let's see, let's run and see. So I'm just running this one, and you can see here, yes. So if you see, the hash code for address bean 1 is 8239145581, and hash code for address bean 2 is same, 8239145581, and equal is also true, and equal is also true. It means your spring is returning the same object. Your spring is returning same object. So why it is returning same object? Because the scope is singleton. By default the scope is singleton, so that's why your spring is creating only the single object and will give you that same object every time. And what if I will specify the scope as a prototype? What will happen? Your spring will return different object in both the calls. In both the calls your spring will return different objects. Here you can verify that one. See, for address bean 1, hash code is 8239145581, but for address bean 2 the hash code is different, 16805033330, and equal is also false. It means your spring is returning the different object every time. So this is the use of singleton and prototype. And here in case of singleton, which strategy your spring is following? Your spring is following eager loading. What is the meaning of eager loading? Eager loading means whenever your spring will load the configuration. See, here at line number 38, spring is loading the configuration. Class path XML application context. So your spring is loading the configuration. So while loading the configuration, your Spring will create the object. In singleton, your Spring is following a eager loading approach to create the object. There are two approaches to create the object. One is eager and another one is a lazy. What is the meaning of eager and lazy? If I say eager loading, it means I will create the object and I will keep with me. When someone will ask, I will give. But if I say lazy loading, I will not create any object. When someone asks, then only I will create a new object and I will give. So that is lazy loading. So eager loading, object will be created at the time of configuration loading, and lazy loading, the object will be created when your Spring will when we will ask to Spring, please give me this object. So at that time your Spring will create the object. So that is the meaning of eager loading and lazy loading. In a singleton, your Spring is following eager loading approach or eager loading strategy to create the object. But in case of prototype, your Spring don't know how many object has to be created, because singleton, it means one only, no? Singleton means one object should be created, so it is creating at the time of loading only. But in prototype, more than one object, not one object. So your Spring don't know how many object has to be created. So in that case, your Spring is not creating any object. It will create when someone will ask. So how will you verify that one? How will you verify that one? To verify that one, we have another approach. What is that one? Inside address class, we will define one instance block. Instance block will be executed when object is created. So a address object created, I will give like that, address object created. That's it. Simply just I am writing here, just I am to verify, because this is our static block, and static block will be instance blocks. This is instance block. Instance block will be executed when we are going to create the object. Before to create the object, but before to constructor, we can say that, because after constructor calling, object will be created. So before to constructor call, instance block will be executed. So here we have defined one instance block, and this block will be executed when object will be created. So here if you see approach is prototype. So let's change to singleton, this one. It means this should create object at this line only, at line number 38. Before it is coming to this line, it should create. So here I am writing one more line of logger, and config lo loaded. That's it. Okay, and here I am putting one checkpoint. Okay, so what I am doing here, I am also adding one checkpoint, and I am running in a debug mode. So that's we can see. So switch this one. So this is our debug shell. Let's make it here. This is variable, not required. So here so this is application started, only this line is printed here. If you see, application started, and now I am going to the next line. So yeah, this configuration is executing. Yes, if you see now, if you observe this console, what is happening here? Address object created, it is coming. Still we have not accessed the object, because we are asking for object at line number 43. Clearly you can see our control is stopped. Our control is Now our control is standing on line number 41. We have not moved the control to the next lines yet, but address object is created. Yes, you can see address object created, and now we are going to access that one. Yes, so configuration loaded. Now it is saying configuration loaded, but object is created. Now we are asking for object, so it is printing. It has printed that address bean hash code. Okay, next another address has be the bean of hash code of that object has been created, is logged here. You can see, and both hash code are same, so it means the same object only, no? So here how many object is created, and now this application is ending. It is printing true and application is stopped. That was the last statement. Okay, yes, so application stopped, application started, and after application started we have loaded the configuration. At the time of loading the configuration, your Spring has created the object, one object only, and that object only your Spring is returning. You can see here both has the same hash code and both are pointing to the same reference variable. So here you can clearly see here in singleton only one object is created, and object creation strategy is eager loading. Only one object in singleton scope, only one object is created, and your Spring is following eager loading strategy to create the object. Okay, that is clear. Now go for the prototype. In prototype, your Spring is following your Spring is creating more than one object, and strategy your Spring is following lazy loading. Your Spring now in prototype, your Spring will create more than one object, but your Spring container don't know how many object has to be created, so your Spring is not creating any object, and your Spring is following lazy loading strategy to create the object. So let's verify that now. So I will run that again in debug mode. So application started. It is loading the configuration. You can see now clearly you can see configuration is loaded. Yes, still configuration is loaded, but your Spring container has not created any of the object. Still, if any object is created, then definitely static block will be executed, but no static block is executed. Now we are going to access the object. Now before to accessing the object, your Spring is creating object. Yes, see. So this is lazy loading strategy, because your Spring don't know. We have specified the prototype, we have specified the type as scope as prototype. So your Spring don't know how many object has to created. So it is following lazy loading. Whenever someone is asking, Spring is creating the object. So definitely for this one hash code will be different. And again I am asking for the address for the object of address. So again your Spring is creating another new object. See, two objects here now, and both has a different hash code, and your application is ended. So this we have tested that Spring singleton scope. In singleton scope, your Spring will create a single instance or single object of the class, and your Spring will follow eager loading strategy to create the object. In case of prototype, your Spring will create any number of the objects. That many you will ask, that many object your Spring will create, and your Spring is following lazy loading strategy to create the object. Okay, that is fine. So here this is the scope: request, session, application and WebSocket scopes we will see when we will do a Spring Web MVC application or Spring REST application. Okay, that is fine. And this was the XML configuration. Now we have to see the annotation or Java based configuration. So Java based configuration is where this is okay. So go to the config Spring scope configuration. Yeah, you can see here this is scope configuration. Okay, this is your address object, this is your scope configuration. Forgot about this component scan. Okay, we will see this one later. This is next one actually. Okay, don't focus on this one, component scan. Same as in here also component scan is there, but don't focus this one. This is we will discuss now after this one. Okay, so in the configuration you can see here we have specified scope as a singleton. By default the scope is singleton. No, we no need to specify. That's why in the last 2-3 sessions we have not used anything else other than this bean @bean annotation. We have not used anything because the default scope is singleton. We no need to specify, but explicitly if we want to specify, we can specify. That's okay. And here in the starter, just I am commenting the above line 1 and I am taking the annotations configuration application context. Okay, and here also the same thing. You will observe the same thing only. There doesn't any difference. Same will be only. Here only one object is created, you can see, and bean address bean 1 and address bean 2 has the same hash code and equal is also true. So let's change this scope to prototype. Yes, singleton to prototype. In that case, what will happen? Two different objects. See, object here, one object created, and here one object created, and both has a different hash code and equal is also false. It means different. So the same thing you can do using configuration using this Java configuration, and you can do using XML. But XML configuration very less people are using. Only the Java configuration is very much readable and easy to do actually. So they are following this approach only. Okay, that's up to your choice which one you want to go. Okay, that's fine. So the next is this 4 scope, we will see later. Okay, and next is auto scanning. Now we have seen something. See here, if you see here in the address class, just close this one, not required. Okay, so if you see this address class, we have to configure this one. No, we have to configure this address class. We have to configure, then only here in the XML also, if you see, we have configured this bean here. And here also, if you see in this bean scope configuration.java, we also have configured our bean. We have created here, we have given a method and we have created object, and we are returning only. We are configuring. In XML also we are configuring, in bean also we are configuring. Is there any way that we can avoid? We no need to configure in either in XML or either in a configuration, and object will be created. How it is possible? That is possible with auto scanning. We no need to configure also. How? See, auto wiring feature reduce the configuration for bean. Yeah, definitely this auto wiring approach is very better. No, auto wiring approach is better than setter injection or constructor injection. Auto field injection is very much good and very much easy, but still we need to specify bean tag into the XML file, or we need to create a bean manually into the Java configuration file using @bean annotations. Yeah, definitely we have to configure that bean either in XML by using bean tag, or in Java configuration by using @bean annotations. By auto scanning feature we can reduce this also by simply just adding auto scan. So in auto scanning, Spring Framework automatically scan, detects and instantiate the bean from the specified base package if there is no declaration for bean in XML or file. If his auto scanning feature is on, if auto scan feature is on, you no need to configure bean in your XML or in your Java configuration. You no need to enable the auto scanning in application. We need to use the following XML or Java configuration. In XML we have to use component scan. That's why we have added here this component scan. What does it mean? It is scanning component where in this package. If it is more than one package, you can specify that one by comma separations, more than one, because that is an array. This is an array. By comma separation you can specify if it is more than one. Okay. I think this one, or I think this one, not this one. Just comma separation will be enough. We will see this later. Yeah, just comma. Yeah, this one. And here after comma, if any other package is there, you can specify that also. That is fine. That is fine. So currently our package is one only, so we are specifying here only. So here so here what we have to specify, base package. Not like that inside package some other package is there, you no need to specify that one. You specify only the base package. Whatever the sub package will be there in that package, all will be scanned. So that is very much powerful, no? And it is reducing lot of configuration. So that is called auto scanning. Now, so here what extra you need to do? So here just I'm just showing you. Yeah, okay. So here go to this starter, go to this XML configuration, go to this one, and now just what I'm doing, I am just commenting this one just you delete, not required. Okay, and this one just I'm just commenting this one, and here these two actually I am enabling. This is just message auto scan, that's it. What I'm doing here at line number 50 at line number 50 I am asking to Spring Container that please give me an object of my validator type. Please give me the object of my validator type at line number 50. I am asking to Spring Container, but whether we have configured this my validator in our XML configuration? No, there is no bean. Here only one bean is specified. If you delete this bean or comment this bean, then there is no bean at all. You can see here there is no bean at all. This bean we have commented, and this bean was not a type of my validator. This is a type of what? com.techhub.demo.spring.bean.address. This is a type of address only. You can see here we are getting address.class. So here we are getting validator.class. It means we are asking to Spring Container, please give me an object of my validator. Please give me a bean of my validator. Bean or object, same. But we have not configured that one. So how it will come? It should not come, but it will come. Just see how it is coming. Because of this auto scan. Yes, it is there. This is dummy validator test. That is, I will show you how is that class. So now open my validator class. You can see my validator class has a one string that I am hard coding this value. This is a dummy validator test class, and get a description, set a description method just I am giving. So what I am calling there, I am calling here get a description. So what description it will return? It will return this is my dummy validator test case. So that is only your Spring is returning. This is my dummy validator test, but we have not configured, no. So here what we did, In my validator we have used @component annotation. So this component annotation is nothing but a stereotype annotations only. So this, to enable any of this stereotype annotation, we need to enable @component scan, context.component scan. This one is the namespace that you can take from that this one here. See, this is that namespace only. Okay, that's fine. So so here, so component context config, that is also fine. We can add this one, and component scan is also this one, because this one is why this is annotation configuration, because we are using here annotations, no? That's why to enable this one we need this one also. So these two you need to add, that's it. And on top of this class you have to mark @component, so your Spring will automatically create the object. You no need to configure, just by marking this annotation, that's it. So this is called auto scanning, that's it. So for auto scanning, if you see, the auto scan configuration looks for the following annotation to be created of object. So for which annotations your Spring will create the object? Only for these 4 type of annotations. That can be @component, @controller, @repository, @service. We will see that one. Same only, @repository, @services. We can mark any of this annotation. So @service, that is also fine. If you comment this one, that is also fine. That is also available under stereotype. If you add @repository, that is also fine, because this is also available under stereotype only. Next one is @controller, that is also stereotype. Another one is @rest controller, but that will be available when you will add web starter, because that will be not available here now. So these 4 are the stereotype annotation. You can use any of these annotation and your Spring will create object. If I will not add any of these annotations, your Spring will not create the object. So I am commenting this one currently, and now just run this one and see what will happen. Yes, Spring is throwing exception. What exception? No such bean definition exception, because this type of bean is not there. So no such bean definition exception. We are not finding any definitions of this bean. No qualifying bean of type my validator available, that's it. Because we are enabling auto scan here. We have enabled auto scan only, but here auto scan we have enabled this package com.techhub.demo.springbean in this package. You see, this is our package only, com.techhub.demo.spring.bean, com.techhub.demo.spring.bean. So this is for this package. In this package, how many classes will be there? In that classes, if any class that is marked with any of these annotations, then Spring will create the object. So currently we have commented, so it is not creating. If I uncomment this one, Spring will create the object. The Spring will create the object and will give you. Yes, it's creating. Or if you add service, then also it will create. Just comment component and add service, Spring will create. Yes, it's creating. Or try for other also, repository. For repository also it will work. Next one is controller. Yes. So now you might have a question, why these 4 annotations are given? Because the purpose is same only. Purpose are same, no? But why they have given 4 different? Because that is given by their functionality. on basis of the functionality you can use, because in Java, in our project, so many classes will be there, and each classes has a different roles. Service will be called from controller. Service will be called from controller. Repository will be called from service, and repository will call the database operations. So that it means controller responsibility is what? Controller responsibility is to handle the client request and process that one. And service repository is what? Service repository job is to call any of the required database operations, and that database operation will be available in repository. So service will communicate to repository, and repository will communicate to directly database. From the controller, we should not directly call to database, because application should be distributed in the levels. So that one, if one part is failing, other one should work. So that's why application will be divided in MVC model view and controller model. So according to their functionality, according to their the use of the our .java classes, they have given the different names. And if your class is not failing any of these category, then you can use component, because component like that some validator that is suitable for this component. Component annotation is suitable for validator, or any custom encoder, decoder, password generator, password encoder, or any validator, or any other utilities that you want to create for your application. You can use component for that classes. If it is a service, then you should mark it as service. If it is a repository, you should mark as repository. In upcoming sessions, we will see these annotations actually used, where we should mark, where we should not mark. Okay, so that is all about the auto scanning and scope of the bean. So in the next session, we will see aspect oriented programming. So I hope you like this session. Please subscribe my channel, and we will see you in the next session. Till that, bye bye, and thanks for watching.